It always starts the same way, quietly, invisibly, without warning. You become the one who holds things together, the one people rely on, the one who doesn't crumble, the one who seems fine even when they're not. Somewhere along the line, responsibility stopped being something you did and became who you are. And while everyone praises you for it, for your strength, your maturity, your dependability, no one ever asks what it costs to live like that. Because the truth is, being the responsible one isn't a compliment. It's a quiet kind of prison. It means you learned early on that love has conditions, that you are only safe, only worthy, when you are useful. It means that while other kids were learning how to play, you were learning how to fix things. You were learning how to read the moods of others, how to make yourself small, how to fill the silence before it turned dangerous. You learned to stay one step ahead of chaos because chaos was never just noise, it was threat. So you grew into someone reliable, someone steady, the kind of person people trust. But behind that trust is exhaustion, a fatigue that never quite leaves no matter how much you sleep. Because when you've spent a lifetime being strong for everyone else, you forget what it feels like to be held yourself. You stop knowing how to fall apart safely. Even rest starts to feel dangerous, as if stopping for too long will cause everything, everyone, to fall apart. People admire your composure, your calmness under pressure, your ability to solve problems no one else can handle. But what they don't see is the cost. They don't see the tears you swallow in the shower, or the tension in your shoulders that never releases. They don't see how lonely it is to be the one everyone depends on but no one truly knows. Because strength, when performed too long, becomes a mask. And behind that mask is a person who's quietly breaking. You don't mean to hide. You don't even know how to stop. The habit runs too deep. The moment something goes wrong, you're already calculating, already managing, already protecting. It's instinct now, as automatic as breathing. But the irony is, in protecting everyone else, you stopped protecting yourself. And one day, you realize that you've built an entire identity around being what the world needed, not who you actually are. That's the quiet pain of being the responsible one. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's the ache of never getting to be soft. Psychologists call this phenomenon parentification. When a child is forced to grow up too soon, when they step into roles meant for adults, not because they want to, but because no one else will. Maybe it was taking care of a sibling. Maybe it was calming down an angry parent. Maybe it was learning that your feelings had to wait, because someone else's crisis was always more urgent. In those moments, a child learns something dangerous, that their safety depends on control. They learn to scan faces for micro-expressions, to sense tension before it becomes conflict. They learn to fix, to please, to soothe, not out of kindness, but survival. Every small act of caretaking becomes a way to keep the world from falling apart. And so, slowly, love and responsibility fuse into one. But what no one tells you is that this conditioning doesn't just fade with time. It grows with you. That little caretaker turns into an adult who apologizes for being tired, who says, "I'm fine," even when they're breaking. They can't rest because rest feels like neglect. They can't ask for help because needing something feels unsafe. They can't cry because crying once meant letting danger in, so they carry it, quietly, efficiently, endlessly. They manage the emotions of others, even in their relationships. They become the therapist friend, the stable co-worker, the one who never loses control. But inside, there's a constant hum of anxiety, a fear that if they stop holding everything together, everything will collapse. The irony is, they were never supposed to be this strong. No one's nervous system is designed to hold that much for that long. But when love and responsibility were the same thing, strength became the only way to feel safe. And so, the responsible one keeps going, mistaking survival for stability, mistaking control for peace. By the time this child becomes an adult, responsibility is no longer just a role, it's their identity. They can't separate who they are from what they do for others. And when your worth is tied to being dependable, you start to believe that love is earned through effort. You can't rest because rest feels like failure. You can't say no because saying no feels like rejection. They become the ones who always answer the phone, always volunteer, always fix, always stay calm when others break. But underneath that calm is guilt. Guilt for wanting a break. Guilt for saying no. Guilt for needing someone else to carry them, even for a moment. It's a strange paradox. They are the strongest in the room, but also the most fragile, because all that strength was never freedom. It was defense. Over time, this constant responsibility starts to turn inward. The responsible one becomes their own warden. They monitor themselves for weakness, punish themselves for mistakes, and rarely allow softness. And the scariest part? People start to believe they don't need care. No one checks in on the strong one. No one asks, "Are you okay?" because everyone assumes they are. But when the responsible one finally breaks, when they finally whisper that they can't do it anymore, the world looks shocked. You? But you're so strong. As if strength means immunity from pain. As if reliability means invincibility. But it doesn't, it never did. The responsible one breaks quietly. Not because they're weak, but because they carried too much for too long without anyone noticing. There's a term therapists use for this state: chronic hyper-responsibility. It's the psychological reflex to take ownership of everything. Other people's moods, mistakes, disappointments. It's what happens when your nervous system learns that safety equals control. You don't just fix problems. You anticipate them, absorb them, prevent them before they even start. But the cost is immense. You forget how to trust. You can't delegate. You can't rest without guilt. And emotionally, you live in a constant state of quiet alertness. Like a soldier who never comes off duty. The mind says, relax, but the body says, don't you dare. Breaking that cycle isn't easy because it feels wrong at first. It feels selfish. It feels like betrayal. Because for the responsible one, peace doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unfamiliar. Stillness feels unsafe because it reminds them of the moments when silence meant something was about to go wrong. So they keep moving, keep helping, keep controlling, because movement feels like protection. But responsibility without boundaries becomes self-erasure. The same instinct that once protected you now keeps you from healing. True responsibility is not about holding everything. It's about knowing what's actually yours to hold. The rest, the guilt, the fear, the pressure, that was never yours to begin with. Healing for the responsible one begins with something radical: permission. Permission to stop holding. Permission to rest without apology. Permission to be loved even when you're not useful. It means learning to trust that the world won't fall apart if you stop managing it for a moment. At first, that feels terrifying. You might feel lost, even guilty, but slowly, something softer begins to grow in the silence. A gentler kind of strength. The kind that doesn't come from control, but from trust. You begin to realize that it's not your job to fix everyone, that it never was. And when you finally let yourself exhale, you discover that the world keeps spinning without your constant grip. That people who truly love you don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be present. You begin to rest. You begin to feel. You begin to live without measuring your worth in what you can carry. The quiet pain of being the responsible one begins to fade when you understand that responsibility and love aren't the same thing, that you can still care deeply without losing yourself. That being strong doesn't mean being alone, and that sometimes the most responsible thing you can do is finally let yourself be human. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more deep insights into human psychology, emotions and self-awareness.